I'm going to introduce each of these outstanding graduates. This was quite an interesting project for me. I wanted an outstanding graduate from each of the major professions. And it turns out in our class, the class of 63, there are numerous exemplary graduates in every field. Certainly in law, we have Fordham's famous for its lawyers, but in every field, medicine, science. One fellow is not here today, Frank Cesare, who would be on this panel if we could have made it. Outstanding man in the field of science, graduated in our class. So we're going to start out with me introducing each of the panelists one at a time, and then they will give us about 5 minutes on what they learned or did or achieved here at Fordham that influenced that career in life that I will have described in the introduction. I give the substance of their resume, and then they'll focus on any particular moment or anecdote or set of points that they feel is worth relating and illustrative of their life and what they took from Fordham. So 5 minutes each, if we could do that. After the 8 panelists speak in order, I'll invite all of them to interact with each other. Too bad we can't be more of a semicircle on the topics that any of them talked about. Talk to each other. I'll act as an interviewer or intervene as little as needed and as much as necessary. That'll go on for about 10 minutes. Then I'm going to ask the philosophical part of the question here. We had a view, all of us did, in 1963, of the United States, of the world, of ourselves. We had a world view. What has happened in the subsequent 50 years affected or changed that? How do we see things differently? What do we learn in these 50 years, in our profession or in observing the world in general? How have things changed from 1963 to 2013? And in that regard, I have an article that was published on opednews.com that I urge and welcome and ask all of you to take before you go, which is an exposition of where we've been since 1963 as a country and as the class of 63, how we changed the world. So I urge you to pick up that article, read it, and if you have any comments on it, please email me. My email address is on it. I'm really interested in how you see the points that I bring up there. So do get the article afterwards. 10 minutes to that interchange. Then we open it for you. We want to hear from you. How did Fordham influence your lives? How do you see the world today differently? Or any questions or comments you have with the panelists. Interact with the panelists. I want this to be as much about you, and the panelists did too. They berated me with the idea that they should be stars. The whole class is a star. So we want your input. As we said in the introduction to the book, which I hope you all got a copy of, we're quite proud of this. We all affected each other in the class of 63. Whether we went on to be famous or not, we learned from each other. So you're equal to anyone else here in this room. I think that's about it. We're scheduled to go to 2:30, but I've been told by the powers that be we go beyond that as much as we want, and I hope you will stay to do your contribution. We've got a microphone here. Who's going to be the microphone person for the audience? Who's going to do that? You're going to do that?
I was going to talk.
I think we were hearing pretty well. We did a test, but if we're not, you can tell me back there. So you let me know when you should be on the okay. So we go beyond 2:30. All right. We are videotaping, by the way. You think I know that? It's after years of being in radio. We're videotaping, and I understand the Alumni Magazine is covering it. Is the reporter for the Alumni Magazine here? Can I see you hanging? Oh, you are here. Okay. What's that?
Inside Fordham.
Inside Fordham. Yeah, the Alumni Magazine itself, Inside Fordham. Okay. All right. John Sexton. Far left, what I think is a description of someone who, a novelist, wouldn't dare present in fiction because it wouldn't be believable. He wasn't prominent on campus in 1963. He didn't even show up to have his picture in the yearbook. You might not even know that he went here in a way. And there were reasons for that, which is biography on the internet gets into it, and welcome you go to it. When he left Fordham, John began by teaching high school debate, and he led the St. Brendan's parochial school female students in what is often an all-male field. His team won a stunning 2 national championships. Little St. Brendan's parochial school girls debate team under John's leadership won 2 national championships. Emory University, which currently is somewhat a judge on these things, named John Sexton the outstanding high school debate coach of the last 50 years. So there's a career right there, we would say, not for John Sexton. He then switched careers and went on to earn a PhD in religion, thus becoming a theologian. Then he switched again and became a lawyer, went to Harvard Law School. And that switch, by the way, from theologian to lawyer, some might say is somewhat incongruent. A little lawyer joke there. Then he ascended to Dean of NYU's Law School, and he pioneered their global law program. Well, they saw soon the talent they had under their right in front of them. So they appointed, NYU appointed John the president of the entire university, which of course is one of the leading universities of higher learning. And he endeavored to make NYU a top teaching university. That was one of his first efforts, focusing on student learning and equal degree to research, which is significant. Then he went on to expand, as you read in the New York Times from time to time, NYU around the world as a global university. He's already considered NYU's most influential president ever. In 2010, Time magazine named him one of the 10 best college presidents. And all the while, he manages to find God through baseball, which is the title of his current book, which you may have seen discussed on various television programs. At the same time, he teaches a full load at NYU while he's building the university, writing books. I think there are actually 2 John Sextons. I think this is one of them. There's got to be another one to get all of these numbers. This book, Baseball as a Road to God, emanates from one of the classes that he teaches. I recommend that book. It's no wonder that Stephen Colbert, the satirist, the edgy satirist, he couldn't grasp it all when when he was interviewing John. And yet, amidst all of this, I know personally that John Sexton remains a very remarkably humble guy. John, how did Fordham contribute to you going on to such a remarkable life and career?
Well, I'm going to count that against my time. I'll just take this.
You have a chance that some folks that would prefer to hear it through the mic. So before I say anything, and I will be very brief, this is something of a busman's holiday for me. I know something about reunions. I've been a dean and a president for 26 years now, and built 2 reunion programs at the law school and at the university. And I have to say that experiencing this one with all of you gives me an idea of just how much better we could do with the ones that I run. And every now and then you get someone inside of a class that really decides to make it a passion. And it should be recognized, I think, that not for all of us, but for most of us that are here, and certainly the turnout last night and today, is due to the obsessively wonderful work of Elmer, and I think we should just take a minute. So I'm just going to make two minor corrections to what he said. One, because if you ask me, I've essentially had three tranches to my professional life. A 15-year tranche where I spent literally 100 hours a week out in Brooklyn High School, which is why I was invisible here, and why, if it had not been for unbelievably supportive and understanding and tolerant friends and roommates, many of whom were in this room, but most notably my freshman roommate Paul, and then the suite of folks that are so special. Jim and Bob and Mike are here from our suite, who really put up. I was a year and a half younger than most of you, and who really put up with an immature adolescent with a lot of eccentricities. I couldn't have made it through. But the first 15 years, I was 100 hours a week out in Brooklyn working with the girls, and they're like my daughters, all of them. And I gotta tell you, they didn't win 2 national championships in the 15 years, they won 5. And that's for them. Okay? The second correction I'll make is, I do not ever refer to the 4 courses that I teach as a teaching load. Okay, every class I enter is a privilege, and I was put on earth to be in the classroom, and I couldn't understand why I was doing the rest of it if I viewed it as a load. It's a privilege, and my dad died my first year here, and I think that kind of catalyzed things. I had a phenomenal education, and really the end of my formal education. And this goes to something that we've heard. My formal education actually ended in the 10th grade at Brooklyn Prep. And then from that point on, as I reflect upon it and talk about it in intimate settings, I don't want this to go out into the blog. I'm talking here to friends that go back 50 years or more. Essentially, I wrote 19 doctoral dissertations, 18 of which were the National High School debate topic. The easiest of which, frankly, was the PhD dissertation I wrote here. Because by the end of the year, you had to know everything about the National High School debate topic. And then I homeschooled myself, because I didn't go to class here. So I used the notes of my roommates to get by with my 2.1 grade point average, barely graduating. And I wanted to teach my kids. Yeah, okay. So I learned myself. And the 15 years with the kids was by far the most important of the 3 tranches, and the unifying principle comes right back to here, and it's what we felt last night, what we felt today in the Dean's presentation, and what we felt in Joe McShane's talk, and that is, if you're given a classroom or a school, you've got to know why you're doing it. It's the ratio studiorum. And if you look at my installation speech as president, it's all about the ratio studiorum. And the other part is on my own day, Gloria, you try to live a useful life. And those 2 things which were instilled by us in each other here and carried by us seem to be controversial today, but they're very obvious to us. And that, frankly, is what explains what seems to be revolutionary in other parts of the world, but it's quite ordinary to us here and it's carried by every one of us. So that's my story.
All the Saunders at Fordham. Honors program, 5 Beta Kappa, goes on for a law degree from George Washington University Law Center. He's board of directors of Commonweal Magazine, Fordham University Board of Trustees. There are 370, I don't know if I got the numbers right, they vary, but I understand there may be 370,000 law firms in the United States and 1,140,000 lawyers in the United States. Every year, those lawyers name which is in their peer review the top U.S. law firm. Cravath, Swain, and Moore always comes out at the top or number 2, however they do these things. Paul Saunders has been a partner in that ultimate U.S. law firm, and he's retired from that. He started there in the early 70s. His blue chip and blue blood clients range from IBM, Time Warner, to Henry Kissinger. He was co-chair of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights under law. He's been named one of the best lawyers in the United States and listed in Who's Who in the world. In his spare time, Paul does such things as teach law at Georgetown and lecture on law at the Sorbonne in Paris in French. Paul, how did Fordham prepare you to be legal counsel to IBM, Time Warner, and Henry Kissinger?
Well, thank you. It's nice to see all of you again. Some of you I haven't seen in a very long time, so it's great to see you. I want to say there really are two John Sextons, because if you look at the book, the before picture, that ain't John. I don't know who it is, but it's not this guy. So I am most grateful to Fordham, because as a result of having been a student here, I am now on the short list for canonization. Spending a year as John Sexton's roommate put me right to the top of that list. I'm probably going to be the next saint. Thank you, John.
Jim and Bob and Mike are also on the list.
They're below me because I softened you up for them. It was not easy. No, it was not easy.
I think your time is up.
Look, Fordham was great. It taught me essentially everything that I know. I love being here. I love the professors that were here. I really enjoyed hanging out with you guys. And what I was thinking on the way here, as I was walking around the campus, you know, the campus is sort of a metaphor for what life was like then and what life is like now. This campus has changed a lot since we were here, a lot. And some of the changes are hard to see, and they kind of meld into the shrubbery, and you can't really see them. But the campus has changed a lot. On the other hand, it's actually very much the same as it was when we were here. The essentials are the same. It was Bray, the gym, and all of that. And the same is true about our experience at Fordham. It's really totally different, night and day different then and now. We were in an all-male class. There were a few women in some of the schools, but not in the college. The university was controlled by the Jesuits, run, owned, and controlled by the Jesuits. Not true now. It's a very, very different place. The experience we had is totally different from the experience that the young people today have. On the other hand, it's the same. The core values are the same. It's just like the campus. It's totally different, and it's the same. And I think it's whatever those core values are, however they got instilled in us. I'm not sure that I know how that happened. But I think whatever those core values are some of the most important things that we know. And they stay with us, and they define who we are. And that's why we can come back to a place like this that's totally different and yet feel very much at home. So that's what I have to thank Fordham for, and that's what I think about my experience here.
Thank you. Dennis Roberts. As a Fordham undergraduate, Dennis Roberts was in the debate society, active in student politics. He was a prime candidate for the Fordham Club, and that's the leadership club. 20 students out of 300 or 400 get into it every year. He was a prime candidate. But happenstance, he missed the deadline to apply. When I learned of this, in the spring of 1962, I beseeched Dennis to apply anyhow when we got back to campus after Easter break. He declined. He stated he may be given special consideration someone else might not get, and he didn't want that. You see, Dennis is the scion of the leading political family of Rhode Island. His father and uncle, both Fordham graduates, were governor and Rhode Island Supreme Court Chief Justice. Dennis didn't want that pedigree to possibly gain him any favors over others. That example of integrity has stayed with me my entire life. Dennis went on to achieve his own place in Rhode Island politics and government, serving 3 terms as Attorney General. He served further in numerous civic roles. He's a busy guy, I know that, trying to reach him from time to time. Dennis, how did Fordham prepare you to lead a life in government and politics?
Well, Elmer, thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for your kind words on that Fordham Club story, which is true. That reflects what I learned at Fordham and in my other Jesuit education, and also something that was instilled in me by my father and uncle, that the 2 most important secular virtues you can have going through life, certainly the life I've lived, are intellectual integrity and intellectual confidence. And I've tried, I think pretty much successfully, to live those principles. As far as what I took from Fordham, I could pretty much say I concur with Paul, who had to sit down and shut up. The point is, when you're pursuing, I've had a great privilege, and I still enjoy it. I still enjoy having the privilege, and I still enjoy it, I've had it, of living my life at the intersection of the law, government, and politics. And the 3 of them, in my experience, my life, have really melted together. And I take that from the Jesuit training, both directly from the Jesuits here, even in law school, I had 3 Jesuit professors. So I had a heavy Jesuit influence, and it really has made its mark, and it's kept going. Now, as far as what you take and where we are today, what we took, I think, was the knowledge that you have to be able to talk to people, you have to be able to dialogue with people, and at some point you've got to be able to reach a conclusion and get your job done. Whether your job is public office, whether your job is litigated cases, whether your job is anything that all of us up on this panel have had to do over 50 years or more. And that is what I got out of Fordham. The substantive knowledge, the ratio studiorum that we took, the fact that you dress like this, all that stuff is, in a greater or lesser degree, things that you took from Fordham. And I am just so privileged to have been here. I'm so privileged to have had all those years with the Jesuits. I'm so privileged to have all those years with not only the guys up here on the stage, but all of you. I mean, it really is, it's very hard to imagine how those 50 years went by in such a hurry. But by God, they did. I'm very privileged to be here today, and I thank you all for coming in. I didn't think we'd have faced a picnic, but we're doing okay, so thank you very much.
Lopez. Fordham Phi Beta Kappa, admitted to and graduated from a top medical school, and being a doctor is an achievement in itself. Being a successful top doctor is a greater achievement still. How about founding and pioneering an entire specialty in medicine? The field of adolescent medicine began through Ralph Lopez's work. Didn't exist before Ralph pioneered that field, adolescent medicine. He was named one of the best doctors in New York City 9 years in a row. How should that be described? With which adjectives for achievement can you describe what Ralph has accomplished? His 18-page resume covers the range of accomplishments, positions, publications any doctor might aspire to, and few can achieve. When I asked Ralph for a resume to introduce him, he responded, "Just say, 'Here's Ralph.'" Okay, here's Ralph.
You'll find that my speech is halting because 2 years ago I had a stroke. And apropos of Forumh, this is my first public appearance. So I've had 2 great Forumh experiences. This one and the one before. Lord, I can do it still. So, Forumh. When I was a freshman, I wrote a paper on the sound of the fury for Father Tim Healy. He must have had a bad night. He gave me an A. He asked me to meet him after class, which of course I did. And he said, "Why did you like the book?" And I gave him some bullshit. That's what it was. He said, all right. So he then said, "I think you ought to read Faulkner." And I said, "Okay, what book?" He said, "Faulkner." I asked him again, "What book?" And he said, "Faulkner." At that point, I knew he didn't have a speech impediment, so I asked, "You mean all of?" He said, "All of." I said, "Okay." And he said, "There's only one problem. You don't get credit, and you don't tell anybody." So I don't tell him I told you, but he's going to be his creator, I guess. Tim Healy taught me how to write and how to think of myself as important enough to get good grades. Now, being a doctor, when I had an AD, which meant nothing for medical school, and I went to NYU, where my first year was a disaster. I was learning new stuff where the classmates had learned in college, and it didn't help to say, what is the A-I-E-O proposition of this is not logical. But they thought I was crazy if I talked that way. So I had a terrible first year, and my second year, where thinking comes into play, because patients don't have anything written on their foreheads. This is what I've got. That's when I came into my own. It was amazing how in first year I had no science to speak of, and the second year, logic. And I thank Fordham for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sal Marchiano.